And I don't think there's a family in America who hasn't been touched by some form of mental illness. And you, at the same time, makes millions of people all over the world happy. It's a wonderful feeling.
A music legend. An icon of the 60s, known for a heartbreakingly seductive voice. But few know that behind the spotlight was a Connie Francis manipulated, betrayed, and pushed into the darkest corners of life. Can you imagine that? At 86, with nothing left to lose, today, she will reveal secrets that will shock the world, the men who ruined her life, the ones she stayed silent about for over half a century. Can you ever imagine a music legend being controlled, betrayed, and shoved into such a shadowy corner of life? These names will leave you stunned. One man stripped her of her autonomy, another exploited her trust to manipulate her and made her stop living for herself, and a third, she says, if I had the chance, he wouldn't exist anymore. Why did Connie Francis keep these secrets for over 50 years? Who used their power to silence her? And in the music industry, who betrayed her in the most brutal way? Stay tuned, in just 30 seconds, you'll hear the first name on the list of 5 lifelong hated figures. Click like, follow the channel, because the most painful betrayal and darkest secrets are still waiting ahead. And don't forget to comment, who do you think is the man Connie Francis could never forgive?
You could be called a stoop.
Yes.
in our Italian neighborhood, if you were an Italian.
The first name. The one Connie Francis hated to her core. Not an ex-lover. Not a rival in the industry. But the man who slipped into her life at 3 a.m. and never left her memory. Sometimes, the devil has no horns. All it needs is a key card and an unlocked door. No one knows his name. But after that night, the world lost the most beautiful voice it ever had. November 1974, Howard Johnson Hotel, Long Island, New York. Connie Francis, the woman who once moved millions with her angelic voice, had just finished a performance and returned to her room. The room was quiet, dimly lit. A normal night. But then, the door creaked open. No sound. No warning. A strange man slipped in. He didn't need to speak. He didn't need a weapon. Just silence, and the power of knowing his victim would never be heard. Connie was raped. Bound. Gagged. Torn apart. Shattered. I woke up, and I was no longer me. No cameras. No witnesses. No arrest. He disappeared like a ghost. But that ghost lived inside Connie for half a century. She lost her voice. Not because he stabbed her, but because she couldn't speak. The pain choked her. I screamed in my head, but all my throat could release was breath. The breath of a broken doll. Connie sued the hotel. She won $2.5 million. But did money erase the memory? No. And him, he never faced justice. If I had the chance, he wouldn't exist anymore. This isn't just Connie's story. It's the story of millions of women whose voices were silenced. Who screamed in silence. Do you think justice came too late? Do you think he deserved 10 times the punishment? Share this video, because maybe, just maybe, you're giving strength to someone whose voice was stolen. And if you've ever stayed silent out of fear, know this, Connie spoke up for all of us. The next name. Not a stranger in the dark, but someone who was always there, controlling everything Connie did, even how she was allowed to love. He wasn't a stranger. He wasn't a lover. He wasn't a shadow lurking in the night. But for Connie Francis, the first man she could never forgive was the one who built the foundation of her career, her own father, George Franconero. My father loved me. But not in the way a father should love. He loved the dream he forced onto me. From the early 1940s, George saw a shining light in his little girl, an angelic voice. But that light never belonged to Connie. It was something George wanted to own, control, and mold to his will. When friends came over, he made her sing. At family gatherings, he made her perform. When record labels turned her down, he went to every office, knocking on doors, demanding they stop wasting time and sign his daughter. Sounds like a devoted father? No. Because he never asked, "Do you want this?" Connie began to rise to fame in 1955, but her father never let her stop. No love, no freedom, no choice. She once said, "I didn't have a childhood. I had a tour schedule." And when Bobby Darin, the one man during those years who made her feel truly loved, came into her life, George crushed that spark instantly. Bobby was thrown out of the house. Love letters were torn. The relationship ended with no goodbye. Bobby married someone else. And Connie kept singing, with an empty heart. What do you think? Could you forgive a father who pushed true love out of your life in the name of fame? Leave a comment. Because this story is just beginning. If you've ever been controlled by someone you trusted most, share your story. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more untold secrets. The third man, Bobby Darin. He was destiny, and the reason she stopped believing in it. Connie met Bobby Darin in 1956. At the time, she was just beginning her climb to fame. Bobby, a young songwriter with no name, no fortune, had nothing but fiery eyes and a heart unafraid to dream. They wrote songs together, laughed together, and then, they fell in love. A passionate yet quiet love. No stages, no headlines. Just two lonely souls finding each other through music. Bobby called her Little Connie. He'd leave notes in her jacket pocket, sketching a small house and 2 rings. They once dreamed of a place untouched by the world, a place just for them. But that dream never came true. Connie's father, who controlled her every breath, discovered the relationship. And he wouldn't allow it. To him, Bobby Darin was a threat, to her career, to her image, and to his control. One night, he kicked Bobby out of the house. Love letters were torn apart. Explanations silenced. And Connie, out of love for her father, out of fear for her career, stayed silent. 3 months later, Bobby married movie star Sandra Dee. No goodbye. No public tears. Just a clean cut, straight through the softest part of her heart. I don't hate him. I hate the way he left without looking back. Connie carried her shattered heart on stages around the world. And from that moment on, she never loved anyone the way she once loved Bobby. If you've ever loved someone and couldn't keep them, you're not alone. Leave a dot, so I know you're in this story too. Don't forget to like and subscribe, because the secrets still to come will leave you speechless. They once vowed to spend their lives together. But for Connie, the man she called husband turned out to be the bitterest chapter in the memoir of her life. Joseph Garzilli, the only man Connie Francis ever married. A businessman, once an old friend, who made her believe that after all the pain, she could still be happy. But sometimes, what seems like a safe haven, turns out to be a second prison. They married in 1985, at a time when Connie was trying to rebuild her life. After years of therapy, losing her voice, and enduring emotional traumas, she needed a shoulder to lean on. And Joseph, with his initial tenderness, gave her that illusion. But just months after the wedding, the dream began to crack. Joseph couldn't handle the pressure of her fame. He was jealous of her past. He controlled her time, her tour schedule, and who she was allowed to see. She once said, "I escaped a life of control, only to enter another, even worse." Joseph never raised a hand. But he manipulated through silence. He made Connie feel guilty for her own success. He turned every conversation into a courtroom. And love, the last thing Connie believed in, was twisted a little more each day. In less than a year, the marriage ended. No children. No shared assets. Just a bleeding heart, one more time. I lost faith. In love. In men. In myself. In the days after the divorce, Connie withdrew to a small apartment, ignored all calls and interviews. She cut her hair short, stopped singing, and didn't even want to step outside. I didn't feel like an artist anymore. Not even a woman. Just an empty shell. The world didn't talk much about this divorce. But for Connie, it was the moment she realized, not everyone who enters your life after the storm is there to hold an umbrella. If you've ever loved someone and realized they only loved the version of you they could control, you'll understand this feeling. Hit follow to stay tuned for the final part, The Last Man, and the deepest betrayal of Connie Francis's life. Not a lover, not a husband, not a father. But a best friend, someone Connie Francis once trusted like her own flesh and blood. She called him her brother. Her protector. The only one who never judged her when she fell. But in the end, he was the one who pulled the chair out from under her. In the 1990s, as Connie's career stalled and her mental health faltered, this man appeared like a savior. He managed her finances, scheduled her doctor visits, and took care of her when no one else was around. And because of that, Connie granted him full legal authority. No one suspected that this close friend would use the excuse of taking care of Connie to quietly sell off her assets. Every house. Every recording contract. Every song copyright, gone without a trace. Connie discovered the truth too late. When she confronted him, he simply said, "I did it for your benefit." What kind of benefit leaves me waking up in a rented apartment, with nothing but an old radio and memories? She said bitterly in a 2004 interview. No lawsuits. No police. Just silence and heartbreak. Connie chose to cut all ties. But the pain didn't go away, it deepened, because it came from the last person she still trusted. I don't hate him anymore. I just feel sorry, for someone who could have been family. Connie once believed that if anyone would stay when the world walked out, it would be him. But the truth was, he chose the moment she was weakest to turn his back. Betrayal doesn't need to scream, just one signature and a sweet lie. If you've ever been betrayed by the friend you thought would never leave, you're not alone. And if you're still carrying a wound that hasn't healed, know this: Connie turned her pain into power. And so can you. Five men, 5 wounds that cut deep into the soul. But in the end, what remains is Connie, an icon of a generation, a voice no one could silence. Connie Francis wasn't just a fading star. To the U55 generation, she was the symbol of an era when music was raw, heartfelt, and led by the heart before computers or algorithms. Though she has left this world, Connie left behind something far more valuable than fame: the courage to face the darkness, and a spirit that refused to surrender to fate. She wasn't perfect. She fell. She stayed silent. She questioned her worth in a world constantly shifting. But in the end, she chose to tell her story, not for pity, but to set herself free, and to free the millions still trapped in the past. I don't tell my story for sympathy. I tell it to free myself. And if you, watching this video, have ever felt small in this vast world, please leave a dot. A single dot to let Connie know you're here. And that you've never been alone. Subscribe to the channel, to hold on to stories that breathe truth, real emotion, and memories our generation will never forget. Five men, 5 wounds that cut deep into the soul. But in the end, what remains is Connie, an icon of a generation, a voice no one could silence. Connie Francis wasn't just a fading star. To the U55 generation, she was the symbol of an era when music was raw, heartfelt, and led by the heart before computers or algorithms. Though she has left this world, Connie left behind something far more valuable than fame: the courage to face the darkness, and a spirit that refused to surrender to fate. She wasn't perfect. She fell. She stayed silent. She questioned her worth in a world constantly shifting. But in the end, she chose to tell her story, not for pity, but to set herself free, and to free the millions still trapped in the past. I don't tell my story for sympathy. I tell it to free myself. And if you, watching this video, have ever felt small in this vast world, please leave a dot. A single dot to let Connie know you're here. And that you've never been alone. Subscribe to the channel, to hold on to stories that breathe truth, real emotion, and memories our generation will never forget.